Test, test.
Regular meeting of the Clearlake City Council order. Clearlake City Hall.
Is your microphone on?
14050 Olympic Drive, Clearlake, California. We have done a roll call. There's no to report from closed session, I believe.
We're not on the air and it doesn't sound like the audio's on.
Test.
There you go.
All right. First time is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice Mayor Pruitt.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Our Father in heaven, we are so grateful for thee and we're so grateful for the many blessings that thou bestows upon us. We ask that you would have your spirit to be with us through this meeting, that you'd guide us and lead us to make the good decisions that we need here in the city of Clearlake for our residents, our staff, and all those visitors coming to see us. We ask for these things and give you the glory through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Vice Mayor Purdock.
Aye.
We go to presentations. Is the voting closed yet? Not yet. Except this, what's the result of the vote, Madam Clerk?
Unanimous vote of the council passes the motion.
Go to presentations. First item is presentation of August adoptable dogs. Doesn't look like we have anything out there, so we'll defer that. We'll go to presentation of the Sulphur Fire Roadway Disaster Repair Project. Mr. Swartz or
Yeah, good evening. I am here today to present the project for the Sulphur Fire Roadway Disaster Repair Project and ask for acceptance by the City Council. In September of 2021, the City of Clearlake awarded a construction contract with Argonaut Construction for the Sulphur Fire Roadway Disaster Project. Construction began in October of 2021 and was completed on July 14th. Approximately 8 miles of roadways were rehabilitated along with several drainage and erosion control improvements. Begin with my presentation. So the contractor was Argonaut Constructors. Design engineer was California Engineering. Inspection and construction management took place through Green Valley Consulting Engineer. Labor compliance was Adams Ashby Group.
Oh, okay.
Which one is it?
Just there over here.
Okay. As you can see above here, there is the overall project location map, which extends from pretty much Olympic Drive all the way out to Oakmont. Oops. In October of 2017, the city roadways were damaged by the sulfur fire response and recovery efforts, causing a drop in the pavement condition index. This, compounded with the pre-existing conditions, resulted in worsening roadways with each passing year. In 2020, the Department of Housing and Urban Development allocated $38,057,527 of CDBG DR funding to the state to address these unmet infrastructure recovery needs related to the Federal Emergency Management Agency Major Disaster Declarations DR 4344 in October of 2017. The city of Clearlake applied for and was awarded $8,784,288 of DR infrastructure funding for this particular project. Approximately 8 miles of roadway was rehabilitated, including grinding of the roadway sections throughout most of the project area by performing FDR full depth reclamation, by recycling the grindings and underlying base rock material mixed with cement to create an underlying base rock material that's more stable. Existing culvert roadway crossing improvements were done, as well as drainage inlets and roadside swales to assist with drainage and erosion. Also done was guardrail system installation of asphalt concrete dike to assist with preservation of the roadway, along with the full depth reclamation. The need for the project. These are the pre-existing conditions and various roadways throughout the project area. Here's some more roads. That's part of Lakeshore. The main project features 7.78 miles of roadway pavement rehabilitation, including 86,380 square yards of full depth reclamation, 109 water valves adjusted, 123 sewer manhole adjustments, 46 storm drain pipes were hydro flushed, cleaned out, 300 linear feet of guardrail system, 28,630 linear feet of asphalt concrete dike throughout the entire project area in various spots, 3,100 linear feet of storm drain pipe installation, and slope protection and hydro seeding of hillsides. Right here, we have storm drain installation on Kern and Tulare. So I'm kind of taking you through the various processes from underground through the paving and striping. Here's some hillside slope protection on Lakeshore and San Joaquin. Here is the full depth reclamation process where they grind the existing asphalt and mix it with water and cement. Here's the cement placement, roadway balancing. So after they do the cement injection, they mix it with the cement and they cure it, and then they go back and grade it to create a more stable roadway base. Here's some paving on Lakeshore. Striping on Lakeshore. Rigid concrete placement and asphalt dike. This is on the gooseneck. We place concrete all the way from the bottom of Lakeshore up to the top of San Joaquin. Final project costs. Design, which was not funded through CDBG, was $447,000. Construction costs were $6,846,649. And inspection and project management came to $397,000. And here is some pictures from the drone that Green Valley has provided for us. And that's it.
I would just add to the council, try to keep you updated throughout the project periodically, This was a very complex project. The number of elements that we dealt with throughout construction on every segment were different. I mean, entirely different. Lily Cove is different than Sulphur Bank Road, is different than Arrowhead. So a lot of different elements that we were dealing with there. And I can't tell you how good of a job Adeline did on being the construction manager of this project. It was consuming, it was stressful, tearful at times for both of us, I think. But at the end of the day, we had a contract that we signed, a bid award of 6.49 million. We ended up at 6.846 million, which is 5%.
Over.
And that's, we were actually, the actual change orders on the project only resulted in 2% of those increase in costs were just due to change orders. The other 3% were due to what we call overages. So, you know, if you go over on some rock slope protection or things of that nature, or asphalt, concrete, whatever, those were overages. So the net change order was about 2%, or about 136,000. And the difference beyond the incremental difference from that was in overages. So did a really good, Adeline in particular did a great job at managing the contractor and Green Valley and the residents. And I would have anticipated on a project of this size to have literally hundreds of phone calls. And we really are, we're dealing with just a few, you know, and still probably dealing with one or two folks that maybe are not exactly happy, but I would have thought it would have been hundreds, you know, given the amount of people that we impacted, the amount of roadway we put in. And I just think it's a testament to the whole team. So I wanted to bring that to council's attention.
Not to say that people that live there were ecstatic that we have actually a good road, so. And the 2% change order, that's pretty remarkable. Good. The plans must have been pretty good then too.
They should have been. No, I'd like to thank them as well, and just remind the council that through this grant program, as a result of the sulfur fire, the city was actually awarded about 13.7 million. So this was the phase that we pushed through as fast as we could. But there's also a couple of phases or a couple other projects that we're moving into design on that will be funded with the remaining dollars. One will be rehab of Arrowhead and Burns Valley Road, all the way at the end of Arrowhead, all the way down to Olympic Drive. And then we are planning to coordinate this funding for the Lakeshore Drive corridor project with the streetscape improvements. This funding can't be used for that, but obviously we'll be tearing everything up and need to replace the roadway as well. And so that will, the plan is to replace the roadway in conjunction with that project, basically from City Hall here all the way to Old Highway 53.
Awesome. Any other?
Thank you,
Present.
Addie and Dave. You both did a great job pushing this through, and I really expected nothing less. But you did
It was,
great.
yeah, I second that. Any other comments, David? Mr. Purdock?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move on to the next presentation. Chief White, is there a presentation on August adoptable dogs, or is that next?
There is not going to be.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to then the presentation of Zone Haven. Mr. Flora.
I'll turn it over to Chief White.
Thank you, mayors, members of the council, members of public. Good evening. This item is brought to you at the request of council member Claffey to talk about emergency alert and warning. Joining me tonight, I have Sheriff Martin, who's attending via Zoom, and then Lauren Berlin, who's the sheriff's PIO and community engagement officer. And they'll be doing a presentation. We're kind of going to do a group thing, but Lauren will be guiding it on emergency alert and warning.
Okay, great. Hi, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
The classic Zoom entrance into a meeting. Thank you for the introduction, Chief White. As he said, my name is Lauren Berlin. I am the Public Information and Community Engagement Officer for the Lake County Sheriff's Office. So I work with a lot of the alerting underneath our command staff as well. So we just threw together a quick presentation to go over not only Zone Haven, but also the 2 other means of alerting our community to an emergency. So we will run through those, and like Chief White said, we'll do it more as a group thing. And I'm not sure if everyone can see my screen flickering, but I can. All right. Moving in, just a quick overview of what we'll be talking about. So we'll go into an overview of our alerting services and how we work with them. We'll go into Zone Haven and knowing your zone, Lake Co alerts, which is Nixle or Everbridge, and then the iPause and WIA. So jumping in just quickly to the overview, we have multi-layered alerting services, like I mentioned, Zone Haven, Nixle, Everbridge, and iPause. So we have working together, especially with the city, we are eliminating the duplication of efforts. So not sending out multiple notifications through multiple means, but using solitary means and sole people to run those means in order to alert the community to an emergency. And then just to touch briefly on criteria, when to notify and what avenues we're using. I'm not sure, Sheriff, if you want to jump in here and just discuss quickly how incidents change quickly and we don't have a firm set criteria that we go off of, but we work with the incident itself. Yeah, I can see that you're speaking, Sheriff, but I can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Chief White and Council, for inviting us to participate in this conversation. These really are community efforts with these fires. The fires really don't care about jurisdictional boundaries, and they impact us all. And the working relationship that we have with Clearlake Police Department has been great, especially under Chief White. As far as the criteria, I see one of the top things that Lauren has on there is the door-to-door notifications. And quite often, depending on the fire, if it's an immediate threat to fire, to life safety, that's the first go-to for our notifications. As Lauren said, we don't necessarily have a rigid set of criteria on when we do notifications for fires, and that's because there's so many variables on these fires. There's literally thousands of variables, anything from the size and rate of spread of the fire to weather conditions to resources that are impacted, to the topography where the fire is occurring, the population's impacted, and really to try to drill that down into a procedure that's set in stone is not practical. And a lot of our decisions that are made on the ground are made with real-time information and with a lot of lessons that we've learned over the last few years. I'm going to cut out for now, and if there's any questions as we go on during the presentation, I will be here. But I'm going to turn this
Awesome.
right back over to Lauren.
Thank you, Sheriff. So we want to make sure that when we are sending out alerts of any kind, that the community is focusing on those alerts and the information in them. So along with the not rigid criteria, we don't want to drown our community in alerts. So we try to make sure that when we're sending out an alert, it's for a severe incident, something that really needs to get the attention of the community. So moving into Zone Haven, which is a great tool to use. It's open source. So that means that
Lauren, can you pause for a moment? We had a power failure here, so we can still hear you, but they're getting the screen back up. So if you stand up. Sorry.
Great.
Take it a second for the little computer to come on. That's a computer.
Generator power on that? We are?
Okay, Lauren, we're back online here, so you can
Okay.
continue. Thank you.
Great, of course. So Zonehaven being an open source means that anybody can log on to community.zonehaven.com and see any of the counties that are participating in Zonehaven. It's interesting while Humboldt, Siskiyou, Trinity, while they've been Mariposa, while they've been actively battling their fires, to zoom out of our county, roll up or down, and find that information of what's going on in their county. It's a dynamic system for evacuations, warnings, and alerts. So meaning we can put information in and change it on the fly. So nothing is permanent in Zonehaven other than the zones themselves. But then as we saw earlier this month, we are able to also split zones in order to more directly allow residents of that zone to know exactly where the fire danger lies. So where a warning is more apt or where an evacuation is needed. This is a tool for law enforcement and fire crews to collaborate. It's very functional behind the scenes. Fire crews and law enforcement have a different login for Zonehaven in order to see multiple layers of information, setting in road closures, understanding where the local schools, hospitals, community centers, et cetera, are. It's a very highly functional and adaptable tool that we've been using during emergencies. We're sure they're going to go into Zonehaven a little bit more. I think we're going to do a quick demonstration. Also, we can work with that on the fly, and I'm going to continue forward. Nixle, they were merged together. They were separate, and then one bought the other out. So it's Everbridge Nixle. It's an opt-in service. So that means you text 888-777, and you get to decide what type of notifications you will receive for emergencies, community alerts. For the fair, for example, there's a opt-in service that you can get notifications if something were to happen at the fair, and law enforcement needs to get everyone's attention who has opted into that service. That's a way for you to have it on your cell phone. It's not a text message, but another way for you to get information. I know that the 30-second siren testing alerts come through on the Everbridge app as well. There's multiple avenues for dissemination using this service. We can email, which allows for a lot more characters, text limited, and then call, which is also limited and provides a voice recorded or automated message to be read out to the listener. We can also do location targeting. So not just sending it out to everybody, but in the system, we can narrow down and make sure that we're getting that information targeted directly to where the emergency is. So again, type of alerts, emergency alerts, and community engagement. I'll pause quickly if there is anything, either Chief White or Sheriff, if you'd like to add about Nixle and Everbridge. I see Sheriff saying no, and Chief, so I'm just going to keep moving. Pause. Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. This is through FEMA, so the Federal Emergency Management Association. This is a national service that can be used by the president. It's used locally for imminent alerts, public safety alerts, and then of course the Amber Alert. They're able to do WIAs, wireless emergency alerts, as I have on the screen. So that's not subscription based. You don't opt into a WIA. It's what's better known as that push notification. So it comes through on your phone when you are in a targeted area. So when your cell phone hits a certain tower, you get that alert, whether or not you live there full time, you just happen to be in the area. It allows you to know what's going on around you. So it's very useful. Alerts that are iPaws can also go through radio, television, and of course your mobile phone. So we have, of course, Zonehaven, Nixle, Everbridge, iPaws, or the WIA, and then traditional notification methods, as the sheriff touched on, with being door to door. Before we jump into Zonehaven, Is there any additional questions?
You said Zone Haven, is that a subscription service?
I'll go. So Zonehaven is open source. So that means that you can log in online to community.zonehaven.com and find your zone or any zone that has a county that has opted into Zonehaven itself. So I'll quickly switch over my screen. So give me just one moment. And I will show what I am talking about. Showing is always better than telling. See my screen once again, and we're looking at Zonehaven. This is Zonehaven. That's our county, of course. But as you can see over onto the right side of the screen, there's multiple counties that have started to use Zonehaven. Humboldt being one of them. And as you can see up in the north part of Humboldt, you have their evacuation warnings and alerts, warnings and mandatory evacuation going into effect so that how they're using Zonehaven. It's highly functional with the status and the reason. You can also go in and edit these. So if something were to change, you can put more information in. On the screen, you can see that there are road closures and they say what and where. So that's all information that fire crews and law enforcement is able to edit. Our county. So going on to Zonehaven is totally optional. You can type in your address. Sometimes it's smarter than me and sometimes it's not. There we go. And it will immediately take you into where the address that you have said is located on your zone map. You can find your zone, copy it if you'd like to subscribe to alerts, which takes you directly to that Lake Co alerts or the Nixle Everbridge. And then it has all of your mile markers as well of north, south. Any additional questions about Zonehaven or Chief or Sheriff? Is there anything directly that you'd like me to show using Zonehaven? I have the law enforcement side logged into as well.
So I think one, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to defer to Chief White and to talk about the law enforcement login side of it. The system's really created with the first responders in mind, and the true functionality of it isn't as apparent to the public through the public-facing side of it as it is to our side. And Chief White has made great use of this over the last couple of years. I think he was actually the first one to use it in one of those fires over behind Walmart. So, Chief, if you could let the council know what happens on the law enforcement login side.
Sure. So when we go in on the law enforcement login side, we can do pre-planning. So a lot of our evacuation routes in the city and so forth, we've preloaded in. From a planning perspective, one of the real key features that it offers is we can dynamically select an area and get an estimated impact in terms of the number of residents, the number of vehicles that are in that area, et cetera. So it gives us a good idea for care and sheltering, how many people are going to be moving if we decide to close a zone. There's a lot of functionality and it continues to improve based upon the first responder feedback. There's also challenges with it. So one of the most common requests that we get from people is saying, well, I'm not into computers. I want a printed map. It poses a real challenge because the system is dynamic. So in every instance that we've had, we've split zones. So what is initially identified as, zone CLE-E126, all of a sudden becomes that -A, B, C. So you would have to look at the screen to be able to see what's going on. We obviously work closely with the county and with OES on fires. And as the sheriff mentioned, they tend to almost always be sort of on our edges and crisscrossing city and county. We've done a significant amount of outreach for Zonehaven, Know Your Zone, and that sort of thing. The flip side, though, is it is just one tool that we have. And so, as they mentioned in the beginning, our primary thing is to try to go door to door, especially in an imminent situation. The other challenging thing is that from a city perspective, the fire is often moving very quickly. And so we're making decisions rather dynamically about where to move. Simultaneously, there's a lot of public interest that's happening. And so actually our ability to even log into Zonehaven can be compromised. The last two fires that we had, we were unable to load the application in order to make updates to it. So, my message to the public is just, it is a tool. It's one of several layers of alerting that we do. We have now, particularly during fire season in the summer, we've tried to make it a point that when we have a fire situation in the city, we're sending out an immediate nixle that says there's a fire in this area. What I tell people is that, you need to be aware that we live in an area that does have fires. It can be, rapidly evolving. Is pay attention, go outside, see what's going on. Don't wait until we come to tell you something. I mean, once it's got to that point, it's pretty dire situation. We do try to look in advance. And I think what you see is there's the fires that we primarily deal with, which are happening in the evolution of, 30 minutes, an hour and a half where there's stuff happening. Then you look at sort of the long-term engagements where it's multiple days. That's where I think you start seeing, okay, we're going to do large scale evacuations like what we saw in the Mendocino complex and so forth. And that's where I think sort of the real power of this comes into play. But in those initial fires that we have here that are breaking out quickly, we have huge responses that are coming in. So we're not always going to be able to have every tool up to date. So people have to pay attention and look outside, see what's going on. If you see like it's something that's getting close to you, you have a concern, is use good common sense, follow the instructions of first responders. I think one of the frustrations that, the sheriff and I have deal with is when we do issue an evacuation order, those aren't done lightly. We need people to heed those warnings. Unfortunately, what ends up happening in situations is that we make an evacuation order, individuals decide not to leave. Then all of a sudden, when it gets close to them, now they want us to go rescue them, which means that we're having to jeopardize lives of first responders to try to get into something that's completely avoidable. And I think what people have to understand is that when the evacuation orders are made, it's generally not that, the fire's right there. We're trying to give some advance notice. So they may look and go, oh, I'm fine right here. But there's experts that are looking at the wind conditions, the fire spread, that sort of thing, past fire behavior. And so people need to heed those notifications. And of course, in warning areas is be ready to go. The flip side is we're always engaging with fire about lifting those evacuations, because we realize, especially like summertime right now, the intense heat and so forth, is to try to get people back in as soon as possible. So I know sometimes it can be frustrating to have to pack up everything and go out, but we really need to be able to protect our community and not, if there are going to be other emergencies that are happening, and going to deal with somebody who decided not to evacuate and then all of a sudden wants to, can pose inherent risks. I will tell you that on a statewide basis, the sheriff and I are both heavily involved through our associations and experiences with statewide alert and warning. I was just at a meeting in Sacramento at the State 911 Advisory Board, and we're looking at this on a statewide basis. There's a lot of discussions to be had, but I would tell you that we live in a community that is actually very forward thinking. And while there may be frustrations at times with how long it takes to get out a warning and so forth, we are definitely ahead of what many other jurisdictions don't even have a system in place, let alone something that we can reach so many people at one time. So obviously we always want to improve it. We continue to look, I think, every year after fires and look at how our zones are set up. It seems like every time we have an incident, the fire changes around, so it messes up what zone plans that we had. But I guess if we knew everything, we'd be fortune tellers. So I'll turn over to the sheriff to see if he wants to add on some more information, or Lauren.
If I may share my screen, I'd just like to give you a quick look at what it looks like from the law enforcement perspective side of it. And let's see, it's this one. Let's see if I get this right. I'm not as good at the technology as Lauren, and that's not it. Or is it? Can everybody see the map? Or are you
It's
looking
starting. There it goes.
Okay. So what we see on our side, these are the zones that are broken down. They're all numerically designated. They start at a low number at the top, the northwestern portion of the county, and the numbers get higher with numerical designations. So if we click on one, if we have a fire in a certain area, and I'm just going to grab one at random here, and we click on it, it will bring up a lot of really good information like Chief White was talking about, like our daytime and nighttime populations, the number of vehicles that we can expect to find there the day and night, and the number of structures. And of course, those populations are estimates based on best census numbers, vehicle registration information, and stuff like that. And they're probably not precise, but they give us a really good idea of what kind of resources are going to be needed in the event of an evacuation. How many shelters do we need to set up? How many people we can expect to show up at these things? If you choose multiple zones, really functional. And this process used to take probably about a half an hour before. We'd have to go into map tools or try to figure out different ways to do it. And what I just did here with a couple clicks of the mouse used to take about a half an hour, and somebody with the knowledge and the ability to get that information and ferret it out. And so now we can just do it a couple clicks of the mouse. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer. It's going to give you a little bit more information. These blue dots that pop up are all areas that have been pre-identified through different databases, most frequently with the Department of Social Services and their IHSS program, and people that voluntarily self-report that they might have an issue. If I click on one of these, I'm not going to, because it'll bring up somebody's personal information, but the information that comes up is, it might be a person who speaks Spanish. It might be somebody that has mobility needs. It might be somebody that doesn't have transportation. And so this level of detail, when I say that this was built with first responder functionality and services, and the secondary is for the general public, this is what we're talking about. And this is an extremely valuable resource when we're deciding where to deploy our very limited resources during these fires. So I just want to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes peek on what we get on the first responder side. And again, this is shared across jurisdictions within our county. And this is a tremendous benefit for both law enforcement and fire services when these events occur. And I will stop sharing now. Thank you.
So the last thing that I just want to add on is, collaboration is key. And I can tell you that, when we're dealing with these fire situations, we have limited resources. I think all the agencies to a degree have that. So we definitely lean on each other. I'll give you an example is like the WIA alerts where your phone starts going berserk with all the alerts and so forth. That's something that we work with the sheriff's office to send those out for us. Because usually by the time it's to that point, we're deeply engaged with going door to door and alerting on some of the other platforms. We are moving away from using, like, for example, Facebook was sort of a platform we'd put something on and put it out there, or Twitter, moving away from that more to the purpose-driven apps, because we can't be everywhere at once. So expect sort of the social media thing might be a follow-up of what happened, or if it's an ongoing situation. But for alerting, we're trying to narrow the focus. Nixle and Everbridge, the Lake Co alerts, and of course, Zonehaven for kind of being aware of an area are really our focus at this time. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions. I know Councilmember Claffey, you brought it up, so I'm not sure that we hit the mark on what all you were expecting, but
you absolutely did. I really appreciate this. I don't think people fully understand the capacity of this tool yet. I've got to see it in action now a few times, and I've just been really impressed, and I want to spread the word. A couple of questions. One, looking at the resident view, when you can subscribe to alerts, did I understand that correctly? That then puts you on a Nixle list, and is that list hyper localized to just your zone?
So when you take it, yeah, do you want to talk about that, Lauren, of how that works?
I can show a little bit of it as well, and try to make a little bit more sense. So if you select on a zone and then subscribe to alerts, it does bring you right over to that Nixle Lake Co alerts page. So then once you've put in all of your information and you've signed in, it does localize the information to your either zip code, or you can expand it out to the county. You can put in multiple addresses as well. I would go into my side, but it has all of my private addresses in there to show you. So that way, if you have work in Clearlake, but home in Lakeport or vice versa, you can subscribe to multiple areas and get the alerts for those areas.
So sorry, go ahead. So myself, I follow the Clearlake PD Nixle. And I may or may not know my zone number. If an incident occurred that directly affected my zone number, I would get a dedicated alert.
Pushing out a notification for your zone, and you would subscribe for the Lake Co alerts, and we had selected all the correct criteria, then yes, you should get that alert. And Sheriff, I see that you're unmuted, so if you'd like to elaborate.
I do, yes. It's sometimes people get frustrated because they get alerts for stuff that doesn't affect them. So it's good that it's very adaptable. That's not something that we can do on our end. It's something that the user has to do. And what I would recommend is, especially as a council person, you want to know everything that's going on within the city, is sign up for alerts for the entire zip code. Another benefit of this is a lot of people, if you have relatives that you're even out of the area, if there's another jurisdiction that uses Everbridge and Nixle, you can sign up for subscriptions outside of our county and get notifications there. And a lot of our subscribers actually don't even live in Lake County. They have family members here and they want to be aware because they know that we're prone to fires here, and they want to keep tabs on their loved ones that live in our jurisdiction. And it's again, another, it's a free option. You can sign up for, I think, as many addresses as you feel like putting in there, but you'll get a lot of notifications if you do that.
And I think your question, as far as the hyper local, it is alerting on the city basis, unless there are some functionality for like dialing, but I believe all the text-based stuff in the email is based upon what zip and then agency that you follow. It's not just restricted to this zone. The other important thing is that when we put out information, at least for the city, we're not just blindly putting out, it's the zone. We're also giving indicators like, west of Highway 53, north of whatever, stuff like that, because again, we can't rely that everybody even knows what the zone is. So certainly you're going to see two different types of messaging.
Another thing that stood out to me was the incredible information that you have available. So if I have an elderly family member, or I have a mobility issue, I know you said you go through different databases. Is there a way that someone can self-report, and where would you point them?
Sheriff take that, just because he started mentioning about the law enforcement side. So how a person can self-report that they either need more assistance or have a family member that does.
They can, we prefer that they refer to social services. So we're not keeping a list of people that, we're not maintaining that list, and then social services will input the data into the system.
Excellent, thank you. And there's one other tool that I've seen pop up, and that's Watch Duty. And I was just wondering, I have not used that, but I'm wondering how they source their data. It sounds like this is a superior tool to get real-time information, but I know that that's a consumer favorite.
Yeah, so that's all public sourced. Sorry.
So go ahead.
You want to talk about Watch Duty?
I will, yeah. I wouldn't say that one is superior to the other. They both have different functionalities. Watch Duty's information, I don't know. It's not our system. It's a private vendor. It's a great idea. It seems to work well for people until it doesn't. I can't vouch for it because I don't know enough about it. But I do know that a lot of their information, when it comes out, is very accurate. One of the benefits that Watch Duty does have is when a fire occurs, that's the only thing they're tasked with, is getting that information. I believe they get a lot of the information from monitoring fire scanner traffic, and that's a lot of the information that we have, but a lot of time our boots on the ground can't update our information systems immediately because they're tasked with other things that require an immediate need. So sometimes that information comes out quicker, but again, I don't know that one's superior to the other, and I would file it under the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better off you'll be.
Love to hear it. Thank you all for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Any questions?
Thank you very
much. Council? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a question out here.
Oh, sorry. We have one question. Hold on 1 second.
You got to come up because they won't be able to hear you.
I know more recently that we got notified for fires maybe a year ago. Is that something on the phone? Is that something that's still going to be available? We have a lot of seniors in our community that are not as tech savvy as the groups in this room and in yours.
Yes. So when our notifications do go out, there's I can't guarantee that every fire or every person will receive a phone call, because a lot of what that's based on with the technology is we can make automated phone calls to landlines that use traditional copper lines, which are becoming less and less prevalent as voice over internet protocol comes in. Right now, they don't offer us the technology. I don't know whether or not it exists, but they don't offer the technology to be able to identify what number that's coming in over the internet. Chief White is way more tech savvy than I am. But if it's not an AT&T copper-based landline, the traditional telephone lines, then we may not be able to get that messaging to a person unless they pre-register and sign up for the alerts. If they punch in their phone number, they will get those alerts. But as far as the push notifications, when we force the messaging out, they might not be delivered unless a person has actively gone in and signed up and put their number in our system.
More questions? If not, thank you very much for the presentation again.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We go to item number 8, public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the city council or any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item, and comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any here in the public that wants to please come to the podium, ma'am?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Margaret Garcia. And I just wanted, I've been up and I've commented before on the water quality of the lake. And just to give you kind of a little bit of a personal part of it, we had a family reunion my family did this weekend. And my aunt has had a place here for like 70 years. And we've been coming up all of that time. She has never in all of her history really seen the lake in this condition. In addition to just that is some of the family rented a room, at a hotel, and they thought, oh, I'll get one on the, the lake. And it was a horrific stay for folks that were trying to just enjoy the room and not get inundated, of course, with the odor. I've also heard of folks that have businesses that they are not doing very good. The hotels, I'm sure, are feeling the effect. There's folks that want to open bed and breakfast, and that's kind of come to a screeching halt. So all of these things impact, of course, the city and its residents. And so I just kind of wanted you guys just to, again, take a second look at that, what's going on. Maybe, I don't know if it's possible. Can we buy our lake back? That would be great if there was something that we could do as a community to organize, if there was any feasible answer as far as that goes. I would be, willing to spearhead it. I would be willing to sign up people, get phone numbers, whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ma'am. Do we have anybody in Zoom that public comment, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll go to the consent agenda. Anybody wants to pull anything from the item on the list? If not, we open it to the public. If anybody wants to pull an item. If not, we'll bring it back to the council. Can I entertain a motion?
Mayor, make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. Fresh voting.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, could you tell us the results of the vote?
Motion passes with the unanimous vote of the council.
All right, we go to item number 9. Mr. Flora.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this item is related to purchase of a piece of property near the old Pierce Airport. This is, we purchased a couple of old mini storage buildings here earlier this year or the end of last year, and I've been trying to negotiate on this property for quite some time. It's owned by AmeriGas out of the East Coast, and it's been difficult to get responses from them, but we believe we're on the right track at this point. We performed an appraisal, got a title report in order to try to help speed this up. But hopefully if you look at your staff report, and you can see that this piece of property is necessary for the 18th Avenue Road construction that we're trying to finalize the plans on right now, and hope to initiate construction on that project yet this year. So anyway, the AmeriGas has agreed to sell the property to us for the appraised value of $110,000. And I'm asking, I haven't gotten the final agreement from them. They've been promising it to me for a couple of weeks, but in order to keep this moving and not have this transaction hold up construction of the road project, I would like to have the council authorize me to go ahead and execute the documents needed to purchase this piece of property as soon as I get the agreements. And with that, I'll try to address any questions.
Questions from staff? If not, we open to the public. Any public comment on this? Not here. Anybody on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Great. We'll bring them back to the council. Can I entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of property located at 6540 Old Highway 53, Clearlake, and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents to complete the sale.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer.
Second.
Second by Councilman Claffey. We'll go to our voting. All right. It's the result of the vote, Madam Clerk.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
We'll go to item number 10, introduction for the first reading of ordinance number 266-2022, amending chapter 2, section 2.7 of the Clearlake Municipal Code relating to traffic engineer and city engineer. Mr. Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. This kind of like some of the other ordinances we brought up over the last few meetings. This is really a cleanup to keep current with what's going on with our how we currently serve the citizens and what really best practices are. So we previously had a traffic engineer. We haven't had a traffic engineer for a while now. For what's on for first reading of this ordinance would be to adopt it as a city engineer performing those services. What it provides particularly is the city engineer is appointed by the city manager. Can be an employee or an independent contractor. We currently have Mr. Schwartz serving in that capacity as an independent contractor, but it doesn't preclude the ability to bring somebody in-house if that's what the council or city manager wanted to do. It also sets forth the duties of the city engineer and qualifications. The principal qualification is that you've got to be a licensed professional engineer in the state of California. And we've also upgraded with regard to traffic and signage issues and those safety protocols and how those are done. And now the city engineer would have the ability to make some written determinations to input signage and other things that are necessary for the safety of our citizens. So we think this is a good cleanup and to help keep the city a safe city. And I recommend it for first reading tonight, and we bring it back for second reading at the next meeting.
All right, we have any questions from Mr. Jones?
No, sir.
If not, we open it to the public. Anybody from the public here has any comments on this? If not, we go to Zoom. Anybody on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, then we need to entertain a motion.
Mayor, somebody else speaking up?
Go for it.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 266-2022, amending chapter 2, section 2-7 of the Clearlake Municipal Code relating to traffic engineer and city engineer. lost track here. And read by title only and set a second reading and adoption for the August 25th, 2022 meeting.
I have a question on August 25th. This
No.
is September 1st. Okay,
Amend that to be,
September 1st.
September 1st.
all right. I will
Good.
amend my motion to be adoption, read for adoption for the September 1st.
Yep.
2022 meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. We'll go to our electronic vote. It's not open. What the? Oh, there we go. All right, what's the result of the vote, Madam Clerk?
Motion passes with the unanimous vote of the council.
All right, we go to item number 11. Review and approval of the use and retention of the development impact fees for fiscal 2021. I assume Mr. Flory will take that item.
Yes, Miss Young is unable to make it tonight, so I'm going to try to walk through a presentation for her. Okay, so let's see, I get this out of the way. Development impact fees are a specific type of fee. It's created under Assembly Bill 1600, which includes various specific processes that are required to enact them. The idea is that these fees for new development would defray a portion of the cost of various public facilities that are impacted by that new project. And in the city council a few years ago talked about implementing various ones. When these went into effect, they were just focused on transportation projects in the city. The council did give staff direction to look at some additional fees related to recreation, and it's taken us a little while, but we are working towards that now. So as part of the legislation, in order for the fees to continue to be collected, there needs to be a report to the council and to the public identifying various things that are listed here on the screen, beginning ending balances in each account, the amounts collected during the previous year, the projects that the fees are to be used for, so forth, and then dates related to construction of improvements and so forth. Okay, so in the last fiscal year, which is what we're looking at, just under 400,000 of development impact fees were collected. There was a small balance previous to that. So the current balance is just over 416,000 of traffic impact fees that are currently held by the city. These are the projects that have been approved and are in the report. So you may recall there was a very detailed engineering report. We had to hire a traffic engineer to look at various projects that we had identified and then determine, cost estimates for each of those projects and what the appropriate share of development impact fees would be for the total cost. So here's your projects: Airport Road, intersection improvements at Highway 53 and 18th Avenue, also kind of related to the airport. Roundabout at Dam Road Extension, the Lakeshore Drive sort of downtown sidewalk improvements, Dam Road Extension sidewalk improvements, and then a roundabout that out here at Lakeshore and Olympic Drive. Okay, so with all those projects in mind, the estimate was that almost 6 million in impact fees would need to be collected by the city for those various projects. Of course, project costs have increased quite significantly actually from the time of the report, but we're not recommending the council consider an increase in the impact fee share at this time. Our current proposal is to use all the fees that we have towards the airport infrastructure project. At the time, the project was estimated at just under 7 million total. And so we would recommend putting all of this, of course, this is a, kind of small amount towards that. We have other funding that is set aside for that project, of course, but to all go towards that, which this is calculated currently about 6% of the project costs. And that's really all there is. We just kind of need you to, accept the report. And of course, if you have different direction for staff on which project you would like those funds to go towards, we can certainly do that. But, we are planning to start construction on a portion of that work later this year. And some of these other projects are in various stages of work and have other funding sources. But assuming that development interest continues in the city, we'll have more fees collected that we can allocate to those other projects. That'll
All
try
right.
to address the question.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Claffey?
Yes, and I wasn't on the council when this passed, so I just had a couple of questions about the fee itself. So this project is only taking 6% of the impact fees. Actually, let me go back a step. So there are 6 projects here. Once all these 6 projects are completed, does this fee sunset?
Well, yeah, it would, because it's only authorized to be used for the projects that are in the plan. So as we start knocking some of these projects off, we would want to reconsider possibly extending the fee or re-looking at it, but it would require us to engage a new traffic engineer, develop specs for those specific projects and do the allocation over. So, I mean, if this is something that the council wants to continue, probably in a couple more years, we would need to kind of open this back up and re-look at it again.
So projects can't just be added ad hoc, is that?
No.
Okay. And you said that this is only 6% of the airport road extension project. Right now, the impact fee share is 1.2 million. Would we, once we complete all 6 of these projects, then be able to recoup any, or is this now closed out? The airport road extension is done. We're not going to be getting up to 5.6 total.
Yeah, no, you can't recoup any of it. I mean, we could, I think, go back and update the engineer's estimates on the projects. Like once we go out to bid and see the thing, we could probably update that and try to collect a larger amount for that project if it was appropriate for the share of impact fees, if that makes sense. But we can't go back and recoup. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, City Manager.
All right, we have any more questions for staff? We'll open it to the public. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, guys. Again, Margaret Garcia. I just had a couple of questions regarding the projects that Mr. Claffey was pointing out. The 6 projects, it sounds like really wouldn't get done. Just the airport project would get done, and the other 5 would be just not completed at any time.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, if you'd like me to answer. Well, at this time, we're not recommending allocating any of this specific funding source for those projects. But this doesn't preclude us from pursuing other funding sources for any of those projects. For example, we're doing the environmental work and design work on the Dam Road roundabout right now. And there's other funding that is paying for that. We'll need additional funding for construction and so forth. There was one of the projects is like Highway 53 and 18th Avenue intersection. That's part of what we're designing right now and planning to take out to bid. And so, we could have really allocated the 400,000 to that project too. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. The important thing is, from staff perspective, is that we're finding a way to fund all the projects and move all of them forward. But there's a lot of different ways to piece the funding together.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I mean, I'm just on a follow-up on that. It sounds like
as far as the funding for these other projects, basically, it's not really going to happen. Is there a time limit that you have to spend that $400,000 or allocate it to the airport project? Or can you just anticipate, say, Olympic Drive roundabout? I don't know what that entails, but it sounds like 6% of the cost. It's only covering 6% of the airport project. So it seems like maybe you could take that money and maybe get a little more done in other areas. I don't know, but I'm just curious as to, will the other projects just be put to the wayside?
As I mentioned earlier, no, that's not the plan. We continue with them. There's a lot of other funding sources out there. And the projects don't die off if they don't have money allocated to them. We're just required to allocate it to something each year. One of the projects on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Prioritizing those things.
I'm sorry.
Said in, it's part of the process to prioritize it for timing.
Right.
The
I-
airport is a high priority.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Well,
thank
thank
you.
you for your time.
Do we have any comments on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor? I can let somebody else. if
Hey,
you want.
going for a clean sweep.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-50. Approval of the fiscal year 21-22 development impact fee, and I guess read by title only.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilman Claffey.
Aye.
Result of the vote, Madam Clerk?
Motion passes with the unanimous vote of the council.
Very good. We go to item number 12, discussion of the 2022 League of California Cities Annual Conference, proposed bylaw amendments. Madam Clerk.
Honorable Mayor and council members, at the annual League of California Cities Conference, attendees will hold a business meeting where items are voted on to determine the Cal City's stance on certain issues in the coming year. This year's General Assembly and business meeting will be held during the annual conference on Friday, September 9th. The City Council appointed Councilmember Kramer as the delegate, with Councilmember Claffey and Vice Mayor Purdock as alternates. This year, the League of California Cities is proposing changes to the organization's bylaws, which were outlined in the staff report. There are two substantive changes and various non-substantive revisions to the Cal Cities bylaws. I can go over those if you'd like. It is appropriate at this time for the council to discuss those proposed bylaw changes and give direction to those delegates.
Do you have any questions for staff, or everybody looked at this? I kind of glanced over it.
Direction.
Stand by.
And by. I don't see any of the proposed changes to be any detrimental to the city, so.
If you like, I can give a brief overview.
That might be a good
For
idea.
the
Okay.
public, I think that would be good.
So the first substantive change is to formalize the oversight of the resolutions committee to establish a second vice president as chair of the committee and retaining the president's authority to appoint the vice chair of that committee. The second is ensuring an inclusive nominating committee by adding one committee member, which would have been which is appointed from among the caucus directors, and one additional committee member appointed from among the at-large directors, bringing that committee to a total of 13 members. So the non-substantive revisions to the bylaws include one that clarifies, unless the board establishes otherwise, that the Cal City's president appoints the chair of the board, and the board is the board established committees. And the second is to avoid confusion and clarify organizational responsibilities. It removes the word treasurer from the title of the second vice president. And third, to promote consistency, it replaces the term board member with the term director.
So we have to open it to the public. Anybody in the public wants to comment on that? You got anybody on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Back to the council.
Can I ask you a quick question? I actually haven't had a chance to ask the city clerk about this. Do we expect other issues to be coming from the league to vote on?
I did check in with our representative, Sarah Sanders. She informed me that there are no formal resolutions to be considered this year. Normally there are resolutions proposed, but not this year, just the bylaws.
Okay. We need directions for Councilman Kramer. And this time he can't make the motion to do for himself. So, gentlemen.
Do we make a motion or is this just direction?
I believe consensus of the council is good.
I think for the business operation of the League of Cities, there's a reason for their proposal of these bylaw changes, and I support that.
Okay, I support it also.
I agree.
Yeah.
All of the changes you to vote.
Right.
Support.
Support. I got it.
I think you got your direction. All right, we'll go to city manager and council member reports. Mr. Flora.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Just a few items. I heard this morning that there was a rumor that the city was going to be removing the community garden at the senior center to develop a parking lot, and that actually isn't true. The parking lot's going to be
About that.
north of that. So just wanted
I
to,
think Chief White immediately
well,
corrected that impression.
I'm
If there's any other people out
assuming the judge's breakfast may not be the only place that the rumor was spread. So I wanted
That's
to
good
make
to
sure
know.
everyone's
Very
clear.
wise.
Getting increasing amount of calls about the recycling redemption center that used to operate at Burns Valley Mall. I think most of you are aware, but the city's had quite a number of issues with the operator of this facility and how it's spread out and caused code enforcement problems really across the city and even into Lower Lake. The operator has, I don't know, it's been closed down for several weeks. And they haven't really been communicating with us, and we've tried to have meetings and figure this out. So I know this is a community concern. I think there's a couple of things that you should share with constituents that talk to you about this. The first thing they should do is contact Cal Recycle, who receives complaints about redemption centers, and make sure that they do that. We have had a number of conversations with Cal Recycle about the issues, and unfortunately, they haven't seemed very motivated to helping work with us to solve some of these problems. And so an outpouring of community input perhaps could be helpful towards that end. We have been working on a number of solutions to the problem. Right now, I believe the only redemption center that's operating in the county is operated by Robinson Rancheria a few days a week. And so it's not open as much. And that's really the only option that folks have here in Lake County. Mendocino County, I don't believe has any except for in Willits. And so it's a model that isn't as effective as it used to be. There are a few options out there that hopefully will come together. Unfortunately, permitting a new site, Cal Recycle normally takes at least 90 days to approve that. We have someone who's looking at possibly doing a countywide mobile setup and try to get expedited approval from Cal Recycle for that. So anyway, that's a little bit of an overview where we are. We're certainly aware of the concerns, have been working on it for actually a number of months to try and improve the situation. But the operator at Burns Valley Mall may not be opening up. The gentleman has moved out of state. And in fact, we're hoping that there's a new operator with a new location because we've had really a lot of issues with this particular one. You may have noticed the City Hall parking lot is a bit torn up. So our Public Works crew is doing some work there. We decided to take advantage of the chip seal contract. And so that contractor tomorrow is coming in and doing a seal coat on the whole parking lot there. It's needed some attention for a while, and a big thanks to our Public Works crew for doing quite a bit of work and have improved that lot. Actually a lot more than we expected. And then they're going to be our crew will be doing the striping next Tuesday, restriping the lot. The chip seal project, I guess, is pretty much done. There may be a few follow-up things, but I think it was pretty much completed today. So that was 10 miles this year. And, we're already getting, in fact, during the meeting, I got an email about living on one street down from where the project stopped. So for your knowledge and the community's knowledge, we already have a plan on next year. And so that's part of the debt financing that we've looked at. And so our hope is that we'll be able to complete all of the what we would consider, I guess, decently populated dirt or gravel streets in the avenues and other sections of the city that are public. Hopefully will be completed next year with that funding. And so that's the goal that we're moving forward with. So
Shouldn't be able to complain anymore.
well, good luck with that one. But the splash pad project is coming along okay. Most of the underground work is done where the splash pad itself and the water line connection are. So you see a little dirt around the park. Most of it's went back right away in place as the water line's been completed. Next week, they'll be working on the sewer line connection over to Olympic Drive here. So excited to see that project continue. And the final thing was, you're all aware that we have a special council meeting on Monday at 3:30 to decide what to do as we with the council seats, as we have 2 candidates for the 2 seats, and there's a couple options for the council you'll need to make a decision on. So hope to see you all on Monday at 3:30.
All right. Council member reports.
Mr. Schwartz wants to add something.
Just one quick thing on Second and Modoc. They're going to start paving that on Monday. And as you drive up Second and Modoc, when you make that transition, it used to be kind of an S right through there, and it's not anymore. It's going to surprise a few people. And the reason it's not is because we never owned that property that encompassed the majority of that S turn. So the road is put like that intentionally, which is in our right of way. I wanted you to know that now, because as we start getting people driving on, I'm sure you're going to have questions, and there's a reason for it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Councilman report, Mr. Kramer.
Yeah, a question on the chip sealing. You said it is completed on all of the streets. That was on Sunset. The north end of it didn't appear to have the seal coat on it yet. This afternoon, I was on it.
They were seal coating this afternoon. They were due to finish seal coating this afternoon. I can't tell you that they
So it may
specifically
have
did
happened.
Sunset, but that if you weren't on it, they probably were right behind you.
Looking at my rear view mirror, didn't notice them.
Don't
I'll
stop.
take your
They're pretty
word for it.
fast.
But I will go in the morning and check it.
Thank you. I'd like to know too.
Okay. Meetings, I attended the APC LTA meeting last week, along with Vice Mayor Purdock. I'll let him talk about any details if he wants. That was on Wednesday. On Thursday, at a Lake Links board meeting, again, welcoming our new program manager and getting things back to normal in the Lake Links world. I also attended the Clean Water Program Management Council quarter meeting as alternate to Councilwoman Overton, who couldn't be there, and ended up as she's the vice chair, and the chair wasn't there, so I ended up chairing the meeting and managed to muddle through it. again, not anything earth-shaking that happened in that meeting. I'm just going through my calendar because it's actually had lunch with Supervisor Simon on Monday and kind of trying to reestablish a relationship. City Manager Floor and I both did, which I think could be valuable to us going forward. And yesterday I had a Lower Lake Community Action Group board meeting, and we'll be looking for a couple new board members for that board. I'll be talking to people as we go forward. That's about all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councilman Claffey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the big thing last week, I had the pleasure of joining Mr. Fleur and of course you, Mr. Mayor, along with Lakeport City officials and county officials to tour a couple of recreation sites in the area, both in Lakeport and in here. I think there's some interesting developments that are coming down the pipe, but I won't give away too much yet. But I think there's a lot of cohesion across the county that that we are looking to improve our facilities and find opportunities for our children to have a great time here across the county. So that's about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did attend the LTA and Lake Transit or Lake APC meeting, as Mr. Councilman Kramer said. But of note, I wanted to recognize one of the drivers for Lake Transit. This individual had two situations on his route. First, along the North Shore, where he noticed a very young child, about estimated 3 years of age, stopped his bus, wasn't worried about schedule, was able to stay with the child until help arrived and they were able to locate parents or guardians, get him back home above and beyond. So great job by that worker. And the same individual had a person with a significant medical mental issue on the bus that was causing a disturbance, and handled that very professionally with a de-escalation of force. And I believe, and I hope that will be recognized by the LTA at our next meeting. So people doing great things. Similarly, I'd like to thank Chief White and his staff working so well with Lake County Fire Protection District. Of note, there was a recent fire, and doggone it, cops can put out fires. And I think it's that immediate action when the fire breaks that really saves lives and property, which of course is their mission. So thank you, Chief, and thank you to your staff.
I have a follow-up question to that last, Chief. Do your officers have turnout gear for those kinds of emergencies?
We just acquired the jackets, the Nomex jackets, so we're in the process of deploying those. But we don't have the same equipment as a firefighter. I know there was somebody that was greatly concerned online and had a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I didn't hear it online, but it just occurred to me. I see in the picture and
Yeah, you'll see them. They're the yellow jackets and they have the Clearlake Police on the back. We also got them for the tactical dispatchers as well as code enforcement. So when they're around a situation, but the one earlier this week, outside the photo, there was a firefighter making sure they were well taken care of, but they definitely worked, but it was more cleanup of the fire. There's about this big, the big stuff the firemen were doing.
they had no clouds, not hoses.
Correct. There was a fireman with a hose right by him.
Well, and one of your officers is a volunteer fireman,
That is correct.
so he's well trained.
Okay, I have a couple of them. I joined a meeting of the Lake County Housing Consortium, which was kind of a non-coordinated effort, to say the least. Good intentions, but many houses, I don't know. Hopefully they'll get better organized, and hopefully we'll be able to help them out, because obviously there is need in that regard. Also, The only one meeting I really was this afternoon with the Koi Nation people. It's a complicated scenario and issues that need kind of a delicate hand to deal with, I think, so going forward. That's it. I did, oh, there's one more. I did meet with a group of residents near the Clearlake Park Post Office. There was concerns about homelessness and people living out of their car and speeding. And I saw that the monitoring the speed thing out there, that should help some. But some of the homeless people living out of their car are still there. All right, that's my report. Any future agenda items?
No, sir.
Anybody? Meeting adjourned. And we'll see you Monday at 3:30.
So excited.